Well, more meat plants shutting down tonight as workers get sick. That prompted Tyson Foods to warn, quote, the food supply chain is breaking. Jerold Mande is a former undersecretary for food safety and currently teaches at Tufts. Sir, it's good to have you with us tonight. Are we on the cusp of another crisis here in terms of food supply?
Well, thank you, Scott. And I think that we need to take precautions, and there's steps we need to be taking that we haven't taken. And particularly the Department of Agriculture and its Food Safety Inspection Service, which I help lead, needs to do more. It's in a particularly strong position in that it has an inspector in every plant, but so far it hasn't used that resource to protect the safety of workers at the plant or even their own inspectors.
We've got a couple of issues on our hands here. We have millions of pounds of food that is being taken out of the supply while these plants are closed. And then even when they reopen, we need to make sure we're taking care of our workers. How can we better do that?
Well, that's a great point. You know, people hear that there's plenty of food, and there is. If you look at food from the farm to people's dining room tables, we have the food on the farm. But what's been clear from the beginning is the risk we face is the workers who bring the food from the farm to the processing and to our homes. And as more people become sick, they're at risk. And so we need to make it a high priority to protect them. The Department of Agriculture hasn't done that so far. It was in a unique position because it had inspectors in every plant, and it could have been taking steps to work with CDC, to work with OSHA, to put in place guidance that these plants were taking to protect their workers. That hadn't been done soon enough, and so now we have the current problem. But steps need to be taken now.
You worried about the food supply chain yourself, whether it relates to pork, beef, or poultry?
Well, I think there are going to be disruptions. We've already seen those. I've seen them in the grocery stores near where I am outside Washington, D.C. The meat supply is not as stable as it was. Things are there and not there. But I think we can take steps now to make sure that things get better, not worse.
The longer the plants stay closed, how quickly do you start to have more severe disruptions in the supply chain?
Yeah, I think you're already starting to see some of that. A good number of plants are closed. We've read stories about growers, producers of animals having to kill those animals without putting them into slaughter. And I think those are starting to be seen at stores. But so far, and hopefully we can keep it at a point where you're just not going to have your choice of the same cuts that you usually look for, but you'll see a supply. But it does require joint urgent action, not just by CDC working with OSHA or FDA, who each separately put out guidance today, but those agencies with USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service should be working together as one team, and they're not.
Yeah, the other tragedy here is food waste. That's what the Tyson chairman mentions today. Here we have people who are going hungry in our country, who are waiting in their cars for hours in lines at makeshift food banks, and yet we have food waste because it can't be processed because of this crisis that seems to be developing.
Absolutely, and it's another area where the Department of Agriculture could play such an important role because we're taking from the farm. They have people that are there in every state, working with the farm in every community, as well as people in places like meatpacking plants. But you're right, it's heartbreaking to see the amount of food being plowed under. I saw in a facility near us in Delaware, or a farm, more than 2 million chickens were having to be killed and not put into a slaughter. And yet you're exactly right. People don't have enough food. In order to solve that, it's not something that one governor can do or one community can do. We need a strong national strategy, and we haven't had that.
Quickly, should we be worried about prices going up as a result of these shortages?
Well, I hope not. As I said, there's plenty of food out there, but as things become in short supply, there's the opportunity for people to charge more.